To be honest, I'm a little bummed. This week's been rough. Our teammate Drew fractured his hand, and I've been sick for the last 2 days, really. And our predictive analysis beta isn't ready yet. And it's not like how I hoped it would go. But we're showing up anyway, and because even when things don't go as planned, the market doesn't wait. And right now, IONQ just gave us a setup that's too important to ignore. We cover quantum stocks, AI companies, space stocks. Make sure to subscribe if those are the types of companies you're interested in. I'm going to be walking you through what's happening with IONQ, why I'm watching it really closely right now, and the key levels I'm seeing and how I'd approach a trade from here. Thanks for your patience, guys, and for riding this journey with me. When it comes to our daily live trading, Stockmate is having that sale expire tonight. If you want to join us, it's the second link in the description for our daily live trading. IONQ had its run when we started covering it from October up until January when NVIDIA CEO Jensen announced this sell-off, or announced that quantum computers are much further. So it sold off down here to about $25 a share, recovered, and continued the sell-off. It bounced on the 200-day moving average, and then today the greater market sold off after news of the Iran strike on Israel, which didn't really push the market in the type of direction we'd like to see. And as a result, most stocks sold off, including here, which is IONQ. Now, IONQ, there's three things we go through in our map strategy: the market, the analysis, and the profit plan. For the markets, the quantum computing market has been growing really fast. We see that at one point IONQ surged back up to near previous highs just 2 weeks ago to that $50 price point, and it's sold back down to about $37.88 today. Now today it was selling off pretty significantly after that recent push up. So we saw it pushed up right here and then sold off rest of the day. And since that push up just after market open, it's been about a 5% drawdown there on IONQ. So when we look at the overall trend, it is starting to show signs of a potential here of a rejection. So we got to watch closely. But there also is this trend here back since April. So April's had this pretty consistent trend on the upswing here. You got the support as well as the resistance. So the market of quantum has had this kind of overall direction. If we take a look at other stocks in quantum, you could look at, for example, let's head over to our quantum watch list. You got Rigetti here, which has had a similar kind of uptrending pattern. If you look at QBTS, kind of similar. It's been, bowling upwards. And without going too complicated, simply put, IONQ has had a similar pattern. And so now that we're getting in these levels, saw it draw down 5%. If it's conservatively, this is kind of into the analysis stage now. So quantum computing estimated to grow between 3 to 5 trillion in the next few years. Right now, the market's just around, $100 billion. And quantum computing, most likely, you see AI, you guys see the new tools. There's the new movie generating AIs, the AIs that can generate human images, that can generate geographical images. There's the generative. There is the coding AIs that are able to code, even the AI agents that can call people and answer phone calls, and all of the AI agentic and large language model developments are going to require more computational surge, more computational draws, and quantum computing seems to be one of the greatest solutions for that, for being able to process large amounts of data and come up with solutions much faster than that of GPUs. However, there is different hurdles. Some of the hurdles are the storage of the solutions, the data storage. Quantum computers can solve things, but the actual data and how it goes through taking that data and storing it can be hard, especially when you have very computationally complex problems like the type of problems that IONQ solves. So if you take a look at IONQ, they use trapped ion quantum computing, and they have some drug development applications, AstraZeneca, AWS, and NVIDIA. They work on battery materials. They work on sequestration of the scraping CO2 out of the air. They work on improved drug discovery. Some of the use cases are there's millions and millions of different combinations of peptide proteins that can bind to certain diseases or even, for example, cancer. And they're able to take those millions and millions of peptide protein variations and find the ones that bind. And those are the types of computationally complex problems that only quantum computers are able to solve at scale with such a small time frame for them to get the results. So they're big right now in their growth. There's big partners, Air Force Research Laboratory, Microsoft, Google, Amazon Bracket. You got Airbus, Hyundai. Partners include NVIDIA. You have more and more partners being added every day. You got DARPA there. AstraZeneca was just announced. And when you look at the growth of quantum, you could look at their quantum systems here. They got a portfolio of quantum computers, and you can learn more about each one. And when it comes to the news that they've been coming out with, you kind of head over to company, go to their newsroom, and they just came out with some recent announcements in the last few days. There's that acquisition of LightSync, which accelerates quantum computing and networking roadmaps. So fault-tolerant quantum systems is, really a strong focus for quantum computing, is being able to error correct, being able to find the right software, the right setup for these quantum computers to be able to process the data, not only process it, but be able to do something. So deliver data center scale quantum computers in the future. They're saying, working with quantum computers together and communicating. This was a company that focused on exactly that, LightSync, and they just acquired them. IONQ acquired them. Outside of that, you have some new announcements just in the last 4 days, which is that accelerated drug development application with AstraZeneca, AWS, and NVIDIA. This is the type of thing that you start to see transformations of partnerships turn into potential acquisitions. You have here, it says that the GM of Amazon Bracket at AWS says future quantum computers are not going to replace traditional compute, but instead accelerate specific computationally intensive processing steps as part of HPC processing pipelines. So when it comes to finding where they're finding their niche, not only are they with Amazon Bracket here and this new partnership, it also says IONQ designed workflow provides an end-to-end example of hybrid quantum classical workflow that helps provide solutions to complex pharmaceutical development challenges and has the potential to improve speed and efficiency with drug development process. So kind of what we talked about, binding peptide proteins, what have you. It says by integrating IONQ's Forte quantum processing unit, so their QPU, with NVIDIA Q2Q platform through Amazon Bracket and AWS services, the team achieved more than 20 times improvement in end-to-end time to solution compared to previous implementations. In short, it means they are using not just that partnership with AWS and scalable GPU resources in tandem with the quantum computers, but they take the quantum computers, the QPUs, they use them in tandem with GPUs. So for example, imagine you take data sets, something like that, you run it through a quantum computer. Now what? Now you have this data come out, and maybe you're now having to do something with that data. You want to find the best solutions. You want to do some research into which of what came out of the quantum computer in its answer is going to be the best one to pursue. That's where, for example, Q to X at NVIDIA comes in, and Q to Q. This work represents a meaningful step towards applying quantum accelerated supercomputing two important use cases. So IONQ partners demonstrate a large-scale end-to-end simulation of Suzuki-Mayura reaction, which is the complex chemical simulation run on IONQ hardware to date. So imagine you have this IONQ has like ions that are going to be able to solve a problem that would otherwise be extremely hard. So let's take chemical reactions, not just you have baking soda, or like let's say you have like water and like sodium. That is like a high level chemical reaction, and you might know, some of the math that goes into that reaction. But what about down to the electrons, the frequency at which they vibrate, the frequency at which they move, and being able to simulate those things will allow you to really get down to atomic or ionic level to be able to research different reactions in chemical sciences, which puts anybody that could be able to do those types of simulations at a massive advantage for finding new materials and new ways of constructing, let's say, any material science or any chemical reactions to find solutions for things. So they did it for the lithium ion battery, but essentially those chemical reactions are so high frequency that are very hard to, simulate unless you have GPUs. Now here's where it gets interesting. It says, or unless you have QPUs, it says this is what they're doing here. They're running chemical simulation on IONQ, the hybrid quantum classical flow, or orchestrated via Q2Q on Amazon Bracket, accelerated with NVIDIA H200 GPUs through AWS Parallel Cluster, delivered more than 20x speed up in time to solution compared to prior benchmarks. So this advancement highlights the scalability of IONQ's quantum systems and their practical potential in pharmaceutical R&D. What does that mean? Well, the biggest issue for quantum computers is definitely like they're working on the hardware, but the software that allows them to work in tandem with GPUs. And if that communication is clear and they're able to really get the connection between GPUs and QPUs clear, then that will be a massive scalability opportunity for IONQ. And it looks like they're working with NVIDIA on this. It's pretty exciting to see them release exactly down to the wire, down to the details of what they're doing so that we can look at it. So I know we got into the weeds there, but essentially the same thing that is true here, that being able to connect the dots of the communication between the quantum computer and the GPUs, and that is where value is created, is the same thing when analyzing stocks. We have to connect all the dots. So we connected, the market's growing. That's one thing. Now you have this chart. The chart is a piece. The news is a piece. The financials are a piece. So when it comes to the chart and kind of connecting the dots there, we got this overall uptrend with IONQ. What we'd like to see is this move up into these levels. It's a 22% increase to get back up into that $46 range. It's hyper bullish in that would mean a really fast continuation of pattern. What we could also see is there's this previous support here and resistance at this price point right here. You got resistance here at 35.50, 35.50. There was the previous support, the previous resistance acting as support. And so you have this pretty strong level there at $36. So with IONQ, it's possible it sells down more, but really what we're looking for target-wise, at least in a perfect trade, would be down into this level, kind of where we saw it, and potentially making that run up to $47 or $48. That would be a very kind of aggressive and bullish approach for IONQ, in that we'd see, we're going to see previous highs or a continuation of trend. Outside of that potential, there is a more conservative outlook, which would put this support here as the main level at which it finds next. You got that support there. Pretty strong support as well if you just drag it over continually over here, support. And so that $35.50 price range is a pretty strong support. So got to watch that level. But again, if it's a 32% upside on this continuation of the trend that we've seen here, 32% upside. If you go on to, let's say, IONX, well, IONQ was down 2% today. IONX was down 4% or a little bit more because this one fluctuates in 2x that of IONQ. So what we'll be looking for, that same kind of trend, if it were to play out, let's say, on IONQ, then we'd be looking for this trend on IONX, which wouldn't be a 32% margin for profit. In fact, we'd be looking at about a 45 to previous high would be about a 70% margin for profit. So IONX, if we do trade it, if we trade IONQ, we'll be looking to trade IONX. But one thing to note from IONQ in the financials, when we look at the financials, if you're just considering the chart, we're just considering, the news, it's kind of like just considering the quantum computer. Quantum computers don't function well unless they integrate with GPUs, right? We got to focus on all the ways that things connect and will create value. So if we look at IONQ's financials, here's what we got going. IONQ, let's see, IONQ stock. And it's just under a $10 billion market cap. There's a lot of hype around some of the news. You can see Jensen just flipped on quantum. He changes the tune. The NVIDIA shifts perspective. So apparently he's having more of a bullish perspective on quantum now. And you have this potential of their net income doing better. So when we look at their net income, this is where things kind of start to become interesting. Their net income was at an all-time negative in 2024. You can see all-time negative, really negative, but their revenue was at an all-time high. If you look at their quarterly revenue last, it kind of dipped. And then when we looked at their balance sheet, though, their total assets and runway really at an all-time high. They're at $850 million, almost $1 billion in total assets. So when you look at their balance sheet, it actually looks quite good. Is it down from a couple of years ago? Yeah, but when you look at this last quarter, $850 million in total assets in their balance sheet, just negative liabilities are only about $85 million. So their total assets being 10 times greater than their liabilities, it's actually really good. So their financials, while their income and their revenue has been okay and actually not that favorable, their balance sheet has looked very favorable as of recently. So with all those things in place, for a short-term trade, we'll be looking there. For a long-term trade, we'll most likely just continue to hold and continue to buy our IONQ as we do. And I look forward to covering more quantum computing companies with you guys. If you enjoyed and I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. We're going to be looking for this margin for profit of about 20 to 40% with a stop somewhere around 3 to 5% if we do a trade tomorrow morning. If an opportunity presents itself, we'll be doing that, and it won't be tomorrow morning. It will be on Monday because that's when we have our next market live session. If you want to join us live, the 20K subscriber special ends tonight. So what we do in StockMade, we have daily live trading. You get a free t-shirt, this one that I'm wearing right here. You also get access to about 70 plus lessons on fundamental, technical, and financial analysis. And specifically, we focus on trading in quantum computing, AI, and space companies and tech. And if those are the industries you're interested in, the other key that we have our books, and we also have targets every single week for any companies in those industries that are reporting earnings. So you stay up to date on the earnings. You also get the community of like-minded investors and traders that you can surround yourself with, people that are doing it right now. And I'll tell you what, some of the best insights don't always come from me. They actually come from some of our members that are on the front lines investing in these technologies. So for those of you guys who would like to join us, again, I would encourage you, simply take a look at the second link in the description to join StockMate. And that sale, it's expiring tonight. for our 20K subscriber special. So I'd love to see you there on Monday. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.